Ever wondered what it feels like to be on top of the world? Annabelle Bond has been there 7 times. Annabelle's an adventurer who's climbed the 7 summits, the tallest mountains on each continent in the world, and she's achieved this feat in less than 1 year, making her the fastest woman to do so. She's also raised $1.6 million for research into ovarian cancer. So how does it feel to have achieved such amazing feats?
It really hasn't kind of sunk in. I think I was just in so much pain during half the year. It's not something you really kind of think about is what happens at the end. You just sort of think about, can I get myself through each mountain? And I always seem to have, like, every month there was a different mountain I was climbing, so I was so busy. So when it kind of finally happened, it was amazing, but I think my body still thought I had another mountain to climb. And no, it's like a dream come true. It's really, I didn't set out thinking that I could do it. I set out thinking I've set myself a really challenging goal, and the chances of doing this are pretty slim, but I'm going to try. And then it just happened. So I guess I was extremely lucky and extremely determined. Everest, without question, was definitely the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life. No matter how much you think you've prepared, it was so much harder than I thought. You know, everything from the Khumbu icefall to the Lhotse face was challenging, and you're there a long period of time, and in pretty kind of primitive conditions. So, especially for a girl, you know, you do miss your creature comforts, but it was worth it. There were definitely a couple of meltdowns during that 7 weeks, but you know, that's completely kind of understandable. When you put yourself in a pretty tense environment, you know the statistics that sort of 1 in 10 people will not make it on Everest, and you don't want to dwell on that, but it's there. So that does prompt kind of meltdown behavior. And it's just, you know, it's from exhaustion. Like one day I climbed 10 hours and I get to Camp 2 to find that my sunscreen has exploded all over the tent. I mean, it's just stuff like that. It's just the tiniest thing can send you over the edge, and that would just be like, oh.
So what are some of the physical difficulties Annabelle had to endure?
The weather, it goes from extreme cold to extreme heat, and no one kind of thinks about heat on mountains. But for example, in the Western Cwm on Everest, on a sunny day, it was 35 degrees and it's like a solar oven in there, and you've got your down stuff on, and it's this heat that kind of just knocks you for 6. I mean, you just can't I've seen videos of people walking slowly and I think they should train. And when it happens to you, it saps you. And this is coming from a girl that can run 17 hours in the 90% humidity of Hong Kong. So it's a different heat. So that was some of the hard parts, and then the sheer time it took you to get from camp to camp, and the ice, you know, the whole thing was hard. It's like, and nothing was easy. I mean, some of the guides are going to kill me when I say this, but I would say Everest is between 60 and 70% mental, and about 40 to 30% physical fitness. It's ultimately, you've got to get your head around that mountain. I mean, it's a long period of time to be focused, and you've got to push your body through that pain barrier almost every time you go on the mountain. And it's all about knowing your physical limits. You know, of course you need to be fit, but the people that usually kind of get pretty humbled on these mountains are like the sort of triathletes or the ultra marathon runners, and they're like, what's the fastest time from here to here? And the next thing is you find them like being carried out. So, you know, with mountains, you've got to pay respect to the mountain, you've got to be humble. Otherwise the mountain has its way of humbling you. Only something like 1/4 of the people in the world can actually go to altitude. And it's often people that think they're really fit can't. And the altitude is just something else. I mean, I would literally hyperventilate with fear and altitude combined in the icefall, to the point where I actually didn't think I could breathe. I mean, I was like, oh my god, I'm going to die. And you just got to get your head around that. But the altitude definitely humbles a lot of people.
And when Annabelle got down from Everest, was her first thought to go and climb some more mountains?
It kind of happened. No one thought that I would make Everest. No one at all, not even my parents. I think I surprised everyone that knew me, including myself. So when I came out of Everest, it's a really, really hard thing because you have what's known as, amongst climbers, as post-Everest depression. And it's, the removal of a goal from your life. And suddenly, here I was, I'd done this amazing thing, and I was just like, oh my God, what's next? I don't have anything to work towards. And you've got to remember, I lived and breathed Everest for 7 months. From the moment I knew I was on the trip, the training, to the climb itself, to try and recover from 2 months. In fact, 2 months living at altitude, like my whole nose here was just like one massive scab. My lips, the whole top layer of my lips had been burnt off. I couldn't even eat anything apart from rice because it hurt so much. And I happened to be on the internet, and I saw, that no woman had climbed the 7 summits within a year. It had been done by 3 men, of which 2 had subsequently died on other mountains, and no woman. And I thought, that's it. That's what I want to do. And I remember distinctly phoning my dad from the beach going, Dad, I'm going to try and break this world record. I'm going to raise the money fast because I was up against the clock, and that's what I want to do next. And I remember him just being like, oh my God, what's wrong with you? Well, I almost didn't get to the summit of the next one after Everest, which was Elbrus. I had 5 or 6 weeks to raise the money, which left me beyond frazzled. And we got stuck in a storm, and the guides were like, if we don't get it today, we've got other commitments. And so that was stressful. And also, it's kind of stressful climbing because everyone thinks once you've done Everest that the rest is going to be easy. I just had each mountain as a next goal, so I'd work towards that, and I had literally 10 days turnaround time between each mountain. So the focus was always like one down, next, and I don't know, it was just a lot of countries I hadn't been to, and it kept me interested. Yeah, I would, sort of feeling sorry for myself times. I spent 5 months of that year in a tent, and I had pretty much zero personal life. So there would be times I think, but I was doing something, and as I got to each, started to progressively do them, it became harder and harder to let go of the challenge. Really, nothing would have stopped me. I was pretty focused, and I'm competitive, so I really wanted to do it. If you treat the mountain with respect, and you kind of, I always thought, if I get to a situation which is really hard, I'll go back. I don't want to push it. It's when you push it that you tend to end up in trouble. So I had guides that, like, when I was in Antarctica, I knew if I didn't get to the summit of Antarctica, there would be no world record. I could not have afforded to go back, and it's such a limited time when you can climb it. We got stuck in a storm. I was a nightmare. I was like, I want to go, and the guide's like, Annabelle, no way. Literally, I was like being chained to my tent. So, I had guides I was in good hands, and yeah, I was kept in check.
Annabelle has also been involved with setting up a fund to help the Sherpas that helped her on her treks.
Okay, first of all, the Sherpa people are phenomenal. They have a freak gene that just enables them. They're so strong at altitude. They're amazing. I spent 2.5 months with our Sherpas, and they do so much work that's maybe taken for granted, maybe not, but they help ferry loads up the ice fall. And to me, I was so scared in that ice fall, and they have to go through it probably twice, maybe 3 times more than we do, to set up the camps and the fixed lines, and carrying like major weight. So I said to them after we got to the summit and we came back down, I was like, what is it that makes you year after year go into that kind of Russian roulette statistic in the ice fall? And they said to me, because we want to educate our children. So I said, I want to give you guys something back for helping me, and what would you like? And they said, we'd like our children to be educated in private schools. So when I came back from Everest, I was very lucky, and I was giving a sort of speech at my party that my dad threw for me, and HSBC Head of Education Trust said she would educate my Sherpas, high altitude Sherpas children. And that's how she set up the Annabelle Bond Education Trust. And I educate 16 Sherpas. I'm in touch with all of them on email. They send me pictures, and it's, in my small way, something to give back to Nepal for what they did for our expedition. I think women are amazingly resilient on these endurance type things, and it's so a matter of putting your mind to something and just trying. So I would say to most women out there, any woman who wants to do something, try it and give it your best shot, because you might be amazed, like I was, at the outcome. And women are capable of amazing things, so just have faith in yourself and give it a go.
Annabelle has devoted her efforts to raising funds for the Eve Foundation, a charity related to ovarian cancer.
I got involved in the Eve Appeal in about 2002, and it was a foundation that was started because a great friend of ours' wife was dying of ovarian cancer, and it was basically started to try and save her life. And she was an amazingly courageous woman, given that when I met her she was dying. It's a cancer that if you get it early can save more than 75% of people, so it's really about introducing screening. And so I became sort of involved in this and wanted to input in some way. And when I was it was a month before I went to Everest. I was down in Chile on a training climb, and I'd been told by the doctors that I had a symptom that was nothing. So I thought, I'm going to Everest, I'll just check it out. I had a general operation the next day, and a tumour was taken out of me, having been told it was nothing. And so I had 3 days of not knowing whether it was malignant or benign, and that's, you know, if I hadn't had Everest as a focus, I think I would have done my head in. But I was one of the lucky ones. It was benign, and it made me realise that if it can happen to me at my prime physical fitness, it can happen, and younger than the average age that it supposedly happens to people. Get the message out there to other women that you can, to be vigilant, to check yourself, and you know, it could save your life.
So what's the best advice Annabelle's ever received?
The best advice was really from what I learned from this. It's like, you know, everyone laughs you out of town when you tell them you're doing something. Just go off and quietly try it and see what happens, and believe in yourself, and I think that's the best. Believe in yourself and see what you can do. You're only on this earth once, so you might as well get as much as you can out of it.